What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Soul Hoops. My name is Jeffrey. I'm joined today just by Ryan. Matthias unfortunately got caught up in some, matters. Couldn't make it today. He'll hopefully be back next week, getting all settled in to whatever all of his stuff that he's taking care of. But today we're going to be talking about general NBA news. We're going to be skipping the ranking list as we did when Ryan couldn't make it because of vacation. Because it's better if all three of us are here for it. So we're going to talk about James Harden, and then we're going to do some hot takes or some predictions that are for the upcoming season between us. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Today's been good, been productive. Got up early, got some things done. Then I worked for a little bit, and now we're here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, similar to you. Just finished up my summer internship this week,
Nice.
last week, and so trying to stay productive before head back to school in a few weeks here.
Yeah.
But we're staying on top of it. Gonna hit a little bit of late night gym after we record tonight, hopefully. But of course, basketball is always first before anything. All right, well. So the big news of the week is that James Harden probably did the funniest thing I've ever seen. I woke up. Was this yesterday? Yesterday.
This was Monday.
Monday. So Monday, I wake up in the morning to a Shams notification, and I'm like, okay, when I wake up, scroll through the noties. If I see Shams or Woj, I usually click on it. Usually, if it's something in the morning, it's usually nothing. Usually, it's just like or something really random that doesn't matter. But in this case, it was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Harden gets up in front of a basketball camp in China. It's all kids, by the way, in front of him. Apparently, he was asked by the media, but gets him and goes, Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be part of an organization which Daryl Morey is a part of. And he says, let me repeat.
He says it again.
He says it again. And I think this is probably one of the few times in recent memory that we've had a player directly call out a president of basketball operations like this while they're on the team, by the way, not afterwards, because I feel like we've had instances before where it's like people after they're traded, they're like, I didn't like the GM or the coach.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, but this is just a bizarre situation. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was in front of maybe some more a dedicated media press conference, but no, this was just in front of a bunch of kids at some camp in China. The kids are hearing this and looking around like, why is he telling us this? But yeah, that was quite the news to wake up to on Monday morning. And, as it goes, there's a lot to talk about with that, just because, James Harden is and has been one of the marquee players in the NBA, for almost 10 years now. He's it's just a big deal for him to do this, and the way he did it. And there's just a lot to unpack. So where I want to start with this is Daryl Morey. He called out Daryl Morey by name, not the 76ers organization, not anything like that. He called out Daryl Morey by name, which is also interesting because, Harden has had a relationship with Daryl Morey for a long time. That's preceded Philadelphia.
They thought
Harden,
that's why he wanted to go there.
Yeah, and I think that's why he did want to go there originally.
Yeah, originally. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I feel like this probably the question marks around Daryl Morey have always been there. It's really crazy to me too because in those 2016 to 2018, 2019, Daryl Morey was seen as one of the best GMs in the NBA.
He was.
And maybe he wasn't. Maybe Harden was just that good that he made everything that Daryl Morey was doing as roster construction and team construction wise look better than it actually was.
Yeah. Well, I also think that Daryl Morey, there are good things about him and bad things about him, I think, and that's always been the case. Good things is that, he thinks and he builds his team unconventionally. He's not
Yeah.
afraid to shy away from looks that might be a little bit strange. I always think about in the 1920 season when he traded every center on the roster and
Yeah.
was like, PJ Tucker, you're 6'6", you're going at the 5.
Yep.
And
And we're gonna run Westbrook out there.
yep, and Westbrook played really well, and then they matched up against the Lakers in the playoffs, which are the biggest. They were the biggest and most athletic team in that entire season, and they just got crushed. There's nothing you can do against their bigs. So that was one instance, and also just Daryl Morey's habit of just like basically switching out point guards every single year. He went from Pat Bev to Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, John Wall.
It's not every year. It's like every 2 years. And it's more than just the point guard play. I think the point guard play was just because there's so many point guards moving around. Obviously, the upgrade to Chris Paul was like, okay, that's no one's going to question that. But then it's like, okay, we had Chris Paul. That didn't work out for reasons not because of the team construction. Then you get up there and it's like, then we're going to go to Westbrook for a year. That doesn't work out. And then it's like, well, then we trade Harden the year after that. So it's like all this, and then he left. He left the organization, and then he was like, "I'm leaving basketball for a while to be with his family." And then he took the Sixers job, like as soon as it opened up. So I don't know. I just think Daryl Morey's unwillingness to let teams develop and grow like for more than 2 to 3 years is like something that's like been a problem for the teams and the rosters age construction. And I think that's one of the reasons why the teams haven't had a chance to really win a championship is because 2-year windows don't really exist unless you're going all in. Like unless you're a team that's like really, really good and you have a bunch of really good players and good role players that you naturally developed or you bargain bought. And it's like, all right, we're going to go all in for whatever, whoever then becomes available.
Right. Or if you've got like an aging superstar where it's like you've really only got maybe
like LeBron in LA.
Like LeBron, like you got to go for it now, obviously. Yeah. And another thing about Morey is that he's been known, I guess, to be like a GM who's not that good at managing players as people and is more of an asset focused general manager. And oftentimes to a fault.
And not taking care of players right away as well.
Not taking care of players, and that's not even just a Harden thing. That's been talked about by a lot of former players who have played under Daryl Morey teams. But yeah, Harden also a report came out saying that he might not report to camp.
Yes, which is interesting because I don't know if you saw there's something spreading around that's CBA language that's been in CBAs for a long time. So in the NBA, if you don't report to camp or team and you're not excused from camp, they can void your contract and restrict you from signing with any NBA team or any team outside of the NBA as well.
Yeah.
For up to a year, I think. And Harden's at an age where he can't afford to do that, I don't think. Which essentially, I think if you're getting into a competition with Harden and his team on who cares less about the situation, you're going to lose because the Houston exit was like
that was rough.
That was rough, and that was like an organization that took care of him, that he really cared about, that made him who he was, and that was rough. Brooklyn was more just like, I just don't want to be here. This is clearly not working. Nobody's ever healthy, type thing. So it's like whatever.
But even then, he checked out at the end of that Nets series. What happened was there was this West Coast road trip where they played like Golden State and Sacramento, and in the Sacramento game especially, which was Harden's last game.
Yeah,
you go back and rewatch that game. Harden.
Well, there's like the clips of like the ball getting tipped away and him just like not chasing it down.
Yeah,
and just like watching him shoot layups next to him. And
when Harden doesn't care, you can see it, and like you can see it physically. Like with the Rockets, he just like came into the season basically 30 pounds overweight.
Yeah, he had the fat suit on though.
He had the fat suit,
but he was still. But that was funny because he came in and he was warming up in that fat suit, and then he like takes his warm off and he's like a little bit skinnier, but he's like still overweight. And then he's like dropped to like 45, and it's just like, I just don't care. Just trade me, man.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting because If Harden is set on only one destination, I don't think the trade really I it's almost impossible to trade him to the Clippers and still manage from a trade wise. I understand where Daryl Morey is coming from. I also understand where Harden is coming from in the sense of why he wants out. He wants out to this extent. Last offseason, which we can get into, last offseason, Harden took a 1+1 for a significant pay cut of what he could get. He was an all-star last season, or not the year before, and he would have been eligible for a max extension, not a super max because he hadn't made All NBA in a certain amount of years, but a max extension. And they said, allegedly, because this is actually against the rules, allegedly from the reporting that we understand, they said, take a smaller deal, take this 1+1 for, about an $8 million less than what we could offer you, $9 million less. It'll give us some cap flexibility for this year so we can get a few more pieces so we can really compete this year, go for all in. And then next season, no matter what, we'll take care of you. We'll give you the extension either mid-season, and you can opt into your player option, and then we'll give you the extension after that. So you still have one more cost down year, but we'll still give you that security. And throughout the year, no extension ever came.
Nope.
And in the offseason, no extension came as well, because the whole year he had the leverage of the Houston situation where they were going to offer a max. And then they didn't do that anymore. They decided to use the money elsewhere. And he pretty much said they also then agreed to, okay, opt into my player option and you can trade me after that. And they said, okay. So he opts into his player option with a mutual understanding that they're going to trade him. That's what was reported, by the way. Like both sides agree that he's going to get traded.
That was legit. That wasn't a rumor. That was like agreed upon.
Woj tweeted they plan to trade him. And now they're saying, well, we don't like the package, so we're not going to trade you anymore. We expect you here. That's not how this works in the modern NBA.
It's not how it works. Teams cannot get away with that anymore. And if they think they can, they're going to get a rude awakening. And yeah, it's fascinating because I'm really curious as to what terms of like how formal was the agreement to give Harden a max, because we all know that, you can't, like a verbal agreement under the table handshake, those are they're super not allowed in the NBA. Having players take pay cuts and promise that they'll get a big payday later down the line, it's not allowed. It hasn't been allowed for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Well, even back in, I forget what year it was, but I think it was a player on the Timberwolves in like the 90s.
Correct.
Or
yes.
late 90s.
Late 90s. Joe Smith was his name.
Yep, Joe Smith. Yeah, he got I just saw an article about this. This is something that I would have no idea about, so niche. But in the late 90s, they did the same thing. Like, we'll take a lower contract for a 1-year deal and we'll figure out something next year to take care of you so we can get some pieces. I think this was in the early Garnett years.
Yep. So yeah, this was in the late 90s, right in the prime window where you need to start building around Garnett because the clock is ticking. They do this. They have these negotiations with Joe Smith where it's like, you take these 1-year deals, and he took multiple 1-year deals. You take these 1-year deals, we'll pay you when you have the money. Both sides agreed to it. David Stern found out, was not happy. He penalized the Timberwolves 5 future consecutive first-round picks.
Holy shit!
5. I mean, this won't happen nowadays, but 5 first-round picks is crazy, especially.
And that's what led to. And that could be attributed to some of the reason why the Timberwolves were not good.
It's completely why Garnett left. If that doesn't happen, they have the assets to build around Garnett. They don't have first round picks.
Yeah, that
ship has sailed. They screwed up royally on that one.
Yeah, and that will not happen in Adam Silver's NBA, as they say, because there's already so many trade restrictions with the stipend rule, and now with the locking of draft picks for the second apron. all that stuff. So that's not something that's going to happen. There would be picks taken,
for sure.
but it would most likely they might lose a first, because the tampering is a second. I would think something of this level would be most likely a first round pick, forfeiture.
Yeah, and
It just happened in the NBA or in the NFL as well. I mean, the NFL is much stricter about that.
Yeah,
but
I would think it could be multiple first round picks, considering that the Sixers just got busted for this last year. If you remember, the PJ Tucker negotiations happened before he was eligible to negotiate with the team.
Yeah,
League found out, they charged him for tampering, second round pick gone. But also, they actually when the NBA saw that James Harden took this pay cut, they actually investigated it back then because they were suspicious of something happening. They investigated, found nothing was going on.
Yeah,
which is kind of an interesting part to this.
They only own their first round pick for 2024, 2026, and 2028 right now. And obviously the picks that weren't tradable until this year, 2029, 2030. You couldn't trade those until this year. So obviously that, but they owe Brooklyn a pick in 2025. And they also owe Brooklyn a pick in 2027, I think. I would assume. I think those are the only teams that would have their pick.
I believe so.
Let me look here. Yeah, 2027 Philly. Oh, their 2028 might be somewhere else. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Might be someone else. Maybe, I don't know who would have it, though. I don't know what trade that would have been. But anyways, this could get really bad for the Sixers organization. And then also the perception of what's going on. I think as fans, we sometimes forget about how players react to things like this, especially because of a player like Harden. Harden's very polarizing, especially at this stage in his career, on how he handles his business, how he handles interactions with other players. The perception of him is very different than it was 6-7 years ago. And I feel like players probably respect Harden as a basketball player, and
they do for sure.
As someone in the basketball business, the NBA business, was also during that era of everyone getting big contracts, and he also really led for guys that are like off the bench who have promise, like, or just like young pieces that have promised to get out, go to a new team and spread your wings, like a guy like Shea when he got traded, stuff like that. Like that's what Harden did to inspire a lot of basketball players. More recently, Tyrese Halliburton, like it was a much faster trade scenario, but like, whatever. But like they might look at this and say, what's going on over there? Because why, especially if the rumor is that Philly wants cap space next season. They want cap space next season. They think there's going to be stars available either in free agency or via trade, and they're going to be on expiring contracts, and they want to bring them in. They won't make enough for two slots, max slots, but they'll have enough for at least one and like a high-end player next to them.
Yeah.
Because I think Tobias's contract's off the books after this year, if I'm not correct.
I have no idea. I feel like he's going to be on that team until the end of time.
Yeah, I just don't see anyone that really wants him.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have much of a market for him right now.
This is the last year of his $40 million, $39 million.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it's just interesting. I don't know. What do you think Harden gets traded before camp?
I honestly do not, because from what I'm aware of seeing and reading things, I don't think there are really any active trade talks in the NBA for anybody right now. I think teams kind of like what they got. I think teams are looking forward to getting into camp and hoping they have a good season and all that. So if I had to bet, I don't think Harden gets traded before the season. I'm super unsure about whether Harden's going to report to camp or not. Like, I don't know if he's going to show up. I don't know if he's going to not show up. We'll just have to wait and see for more things to unfold, because this news is all pretty early still. We're still waiting for things to come out. We're still waiting for more details about the supposed agreement between the two parties on a max extension. And even if there wasn't a formal agreement or an under the table handshake, there was at least an understanding from Harden's end that if he takes the pay cut in the summer of 22, the pay cut to get PJ Tucker and Daniel House on the team,
Which
that he
also is horrible use of that. Horrible use of that.
yeah, like
funds, by the way.
they could have done much better than that for sure.
Yes, especially trade wise. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but you could have definitely got someone better via trade over Daniel House. I mean,
they could have.
Come on,
They got Anthony Melton, but I think that was the only real move they made last year.
Yeah, but and he was good for them last year.
But
it's just what's the point of that? What? And if I'm Harden, I'm also irritated about that. It's why am I also going to try to take another pay cut? Which, that's not an abnormal thing in the NBA, by the way.
No,
players take pay cuts all the time. They take less contracts so they can duck the second. Right now, you're going to see star players take probably $4 to $5 million less on a lot of contracts just to help their team duck the second. The second or third stars on teams,
yeah. The Draymonds of the world, you're already seeing it happen right now.
Yep, Draymond, Chris Middleton this year.
Yep.
He took a $7 million pay cut, and if he didn't, they would have had to trade guys because they couldn't have paid that tax bill. It would just been way, way too high.
For sure. Well, I think part of the reason they brought in Tucker and House is because those were Harden's guys in Houston. It wouldn't surprise me if Harden actually was like, "Hey, Daniel House and PJ Tucker are my friends. Get them."
I don't mind the PJ Tucker thing.
That makes sense.
I don't think PJ Tucker is clearly declining from the point he was at 3-4 years ago. I think he's been kind of. I hate saying about this about a guy who I really love, especially, but the last 2-3 years have really been 2 years have really been he can do what he did in the Milwaukee playoffs for us, which he can't. He's 38 now.
He's getting old. Yeah.
And also he was our dog, grind out guy that whole playoff series or whole playoff run, but he wasn't contributing that much. It's not like he was out there really, really doing the work. Just he's the reason we won. He obviously helped a lot.
Helped a lot for sure, but not even the fifth best, not even the fifth most important player on that team. No.
I mean, he's probably equal to Pat Connaughton.
Probably. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. But
a little bit more just for yelling at KD. Getting in his face. But yeah, I don't know. I think this whole Philly situation could get really bad because if they do trade Harden and they don't get a good package back, let's say they say the Clippers package, that's the team that wants him, that's interested in him, and is willing to give up their salary filler guys and maybe one young piece. They don't have picks. They don't have an all-star level player to give up. They're not giving up Paul George or Kawhi for him because what would be the point of that? It's if you go away with a package of Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, and Terrence Mann or Amir Coffey, what is that doing for you? Or Bones?
It makes them worse,
significantly worse,
and they need to win right now. And I think it's a good time to segue into the next point. In my opinion, the most important piece of this whole thing is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, his the window to win around Joel Embiid is right now.
I think it's over in Philly.
It's over
in Philly. I think it's over because
with Joel Embiid, I think they still have at least.
Well, they have a chance.
Years.
Let me you have a top 5 player in the NBA. You have a chance to win a championship. But if Harden gets traded this year, you're not. I think unanimously, everyone can agree, other than Daryl Morey in his head, that he's not. Even though I think Daryl Morey knows it, you're not getting an all-star level player back. It's not the Ben Simmons situation. It's not. Brooklyn was happy to take Ben Simmons because it was if he can turn out to be even somewhat of what he was, we're really good. And he wasn't that year with KD and Kyrie, and that obviously fizzled out. But now they have Ben. they have a bunch of young guys. They have Ben, who they could be like, let's get you back. Let's try to get you back. Whatever. There's no one out there trying to do that. Like, the only other star level player that's available right now is Dame. I mean, are they getting Dame?
No,
Probably not.
no. I'm just gonna say, I'm not even probably not. I'm just gonna say no because what does that do for Portland to get James Harden in return?
Well,
for
obviously,
Dame?
it would be a third team
Okay.
involved, obviously, like some way. But even then, it's like, I mean, you can give them like Paul Reed. That'd be pretty. I mean, they might be interested in getting Paul Reed. If you could send Harden to a third team, give them Paul Reed, and the third team can give them. I mean, the thing is, Philly does have a few picks they can trade. Like, actually, nah, they really can't because they can't trade 2024
Yeah.
until draft night because they already have 2025 gone. And they can't trade 2026 because 2027 is gone. So the first one they could trade would be 2029, I think.
Yeah. They're in a tough spot.
2029 and 2030. 2029 swap and a 2030 straight up would be the first thing you can do.
Yeah. But, Joel Embiid, for as good of a player as he is, I mean, I think you're right in like a few ways. I think you could argue that the time to win around Joel Embiid or your best shot, I still think the best shot, and this is a common opinion, the best shot for Philly to win a championship was in 2019 when they had Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, and Joel Embiid. That was their best chance, and they were just.
I think 2021 probably would have been their best chance
2021?
too. 2019 or 2021, because in 2021 the super team was out. They were out. The Bucks they got hurt. The Bucks beat them. If they would have, that would have been the best chance. In 2019, you would have played the young Bucks team, Giannis, like 24-year-old Giannis, and younger Chris and Eric Bledsoe. But even then, the Bucks had I don't think it would have been as clean. I don't think it would have been as clean as they beat the Toronto. They beat the Bucks, because I'm just going to be honest. I don't think that's true. They probably would have, just because we were so rough. Giannis was so good, but he wasn't fully developed to the point where he was in 2020 or 2021 even, or 2022. No. So, but like 2021, it was like the super team's out. The Nets, their two guys got hurt, and the Bucks beat them. Took them to the last moment, but the Bucks beat them. And all we have to do is get past the Hawks, and we're good. We get our conference finals appearance. We have a chance to beat that team. We're on the same level as the Bucks in 21. I think Philly and the Bucks were the same level on 2021. Obviously, Giannis was at a next level, and that Joel Embiid was not at this. So that's obviously a point. But 2019 and 2021 were their two best shots, and I think everyone knew in 2022 that it was not going to happen, because it was like everyone thought Milwaukee was going to either repeat or it was going to be Boston. And last year, I think everyone kind of knew that they were the third team as well. So
yeah, they clearly were not there like last year, despite Joel Embiid's MVP season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you have to wonder about Joel Embiid's future in Philadelphia, because, like, what is he thinking about all this? He's seeing what's going on with James Harden.
I saw a report today that he tried to reach out to James, or today or yesterday, that James Harden and him connected throughout the summer, and he tried to convince him to come back, and Harden was like, "I'm not interested in coming and play."
I saw the same thing. They apparently talked. James Harden wasn't really having it. This is a small thing that a lot of players might try to do to send some message, but I think with Joel Embiid, it actually might speak some volumes of Joel Embiid taking out the process nickname in his Twitter bio and getting rid of the Philadelphia in his Twitter bio. Yeah. I think
and he runs his social media accounts.
Yeah,
it's not a Giannis thing where like Giannis doesn't run his social media accounts all the time, which I think he's starting to be on his own social media more, especially in the off season. But like during the season, it's not him. Joel is on his own stuff. So.
Yeah, and Joel isn't like a lot of players. Joel Embiid, he is pretty calculated when it comes to sending these kind of messages, and
Yeah.
he had to know what he was doing by doing that.
It it could it could very easily be a net situation from last summer. I mean, Kyrie has clear issues with ownership over the summer, and that's could be the similar thing to Harden. And they go into the season, and there's rumblings. KD like literally requested a trade over the summer. People
Yeah,
forget that, but like,
he did. I remember I was at the dentist
yeah,
in the chair, looking back and being
and
like, "Holy shit!"
yeah, yeah, and then it was, like, okay, well, we're gonna go into the season, and it's like, all right, well, now we're trading you at the deadline. And I think there could be something of that sort of nature brewing in Philly. I mean, Harden could come to camp and report to the season and not care, and they could start losing games, and then they're forced to trade him for a very bad package, which is going to be a pretty bad package either way. And at the end of the year, Joel plays out the year and does his best, and they fall down the standings. And next thing you know, it's Joel Embiid wants a trade, and
Yeah,
there's only a few teams that are going to give up assets, which they could actually they will get assets for that. So
I
obviously,
think there will be a market for Joel Embiid with a player that
of
good. There
course,
will be teams interested, and yeah,
New
I mean,
York,
if it
he'll
New
be in
York,
there.
that's been rumored for like years at this point.
Well, New York's got all those picks. I mean,
They've got picks, they've got assets, they've got things that Philly could
they got
want
contracts.
if
They
they
have
really wanted to hit
contracts.
the reset. And yeah, if
It's
Embiid gets traded, if I had to bet money, I would not bet money that Joel Embiid gets traded next summer. I just wouldn't. I don't like.
no,
I
probably not.
definitely not. I think it would be a couple of years, but
Mm-hmm.
when or if that if or when that happens, I think we're going to need to look back at the process and really look at where things went wrong because, like, I just can't.
I think it boils down to the organization and the ownership as a whole.
I think it was. I think it really like. I think it has to be letting go of Jimmy Butler. I think was the biggest mistake. The
It was a
70s mistake.
steal that for what they got him for.
What they sent out to Minnesota was
Ro-
Robert Covington, Dario Saric, like
and like
no
a
no
pick, no
like
picks.
no first round picks.
And that
Just
was a nasty situation that they keep trading for these disgruntled stars, and then they don't treat them and do what they say they're going to do with them. Like it was the same thing with Jimmy Butler, literally the same thing. We'll trade for you. We don't have the money right now to extend or give you a new contract, which was everyone knew that wasn't an under the table thing. It was like we can't extend him until blah blah blah. He plays out the year and year and a half, whatever it was, and it's like, all right, I want my extension. Nope, we're paying Tobias Harris $40 million.
yeah. And Jimmy Butler also had a bad relationship with the Sixers front office. They didn't get along on anything either.
Yeah. Man, I'm looking at the Knicks picks right now. A lot of these picks are so fake.
Yeah.
Like Washington's is protected 1 through 12. That pick's never going to convey. I
That's
think it's like for like 3 years and then it becomes like 2 seconds.
That's a worthless pick.
Yeah. They're going to be a bottom 10 team for the next 3 years.
At least. Yeah.
But they have all their own picks too. So
anything more on Philadelphia, or do you want to?
No, I mean, it'll be interesting because depending what they get back and what the start of the season looks like for them, we could be looking at a real down season for that team as a whole. And you could be looking at a really quick change there. And like you said, I just the temperament on Joel Embiid's future there is not for sure. It's not as for sure as it used to be. That's for sure. So
right.
If that goes bad, and Tyrese Maxey, that's something that I want to talk about with Tyrese Maxey. They won't extend him because they want the cap, and players want their money when they're eligible. It's not even the full extension. Like, it's not going to be the $200 million one.
He's not getting that.
No, it's the one under that. So it's like 140 or something.
Yeah, he'll probably get like. Yeah, I think him and Jaden McDaniels are looking at probably the same deal a little bit, and Jaden hasn't signed either. Yeah, that's kind of a different situation in Minnesota.
I think that's more of like we need to see it one more year of this level of play.
I think with that situation, it's more of a like
figure
I
out the
think
roster first.
it's a little bit of that, and I also think it's both sides. I think are still a few $1,000,000 off,
Yeah.
and I think there's no rush to get it done because Minnesota is going to match whatever team tries to sign McDaniels in restricted free agency anyway. So I think they're just taking their time with it, and they're going to see what happens. But
I can't disagree too much there. I mean, it's just, yeah, it with the Maxi stuff, it's like, and that's another thing. Are young players going to want to deal with your team if you're not going to extend them when they're eligible? Like,
I don't
what
know.
team in the NBA right now is not extending their young players when they as soon as they're out, as soon as they can, at least within the year, or at least saying like we're going to work in the extension? I can't think of one.
No.
Like Desmond Bain, at the minute as soon as the clock hit 12 p.m., he signed a $200 million. It was agreed on a $200 million deal.
Yep.
Like, okay, you're gonna be a core piece for us. You're under 25. We're gonna give you $200 million, and the cap's gonna be going up, and we're gonna take care of you because we believe in your steps of development.
Teams know that they're going to hand these contracts out like sometimes a year before they even happen.
2 years, like
2 years
ahead of time.
The Wolves knew they were going to give Anthony Edwards whatever he wanted, or the max he can 2 years ago. Same with the Charlotte Hornets. They knew they were going to give LaMelo Ball the max contract 2 years ago. So,
and it's a problem, and this is very similar to the NFL problem right now with the contract extensions. Similar thing, and I mean, a lot of teams aren't willing to extend these younger players in the NFL right away because of their primes are so early, especially running backs. And it's like players don't like that. Players like organizations that take care of you, that are willing to guarantee your money for multiple years or give you front loaded contracts, which is more of a thing in the NFL because the cap rules in the NFL are crazy. But anyways, yeah, it'll be interesting that all those situations they have with Maxey and Joel and Harden, and
there's not a single asset on their team that isn't at least a little bit in jeopardy.
Yeah, because even Tobias Harris, like obviously Tobias is going to want to win. He's 31. So but if everyone else is like, I'm out of here, and then you're going to be stuck with Tobias Harris on another huge contract by himself.
Yeah.
And you're going to be bad again.
And even this like last summer, it was confusing. I mean, like I feel like they lost some of my fringe rotation players that you could argue, have helped them a little bit,
And even this year, they let Jalen McDaniels
just walk. Shake Milton just walks. I think they lost somebody else too. They just let him leave because they want to create cap for next summer.
Why? You're a good team.
Doesn't make any sense.
Cap doesn't matter. Like, it matters if you're a bad team. If you're a contender, cap doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. That's not how the NBA is working right now. This era of the NBA is not a free agent. It's not a free agency league.
It's really not anymore.
It's a trade league. It's a trade league.
It's a trade and extension league. Like the free agency we saw in 2019, 2018, that's never happening again.
Nothing.
At least for the next 7 years under this new CBA, because this new CBA, it specifically targets the situations where Kevin Durant is an unrestricted free agent.
Yes.
LeBron is a free agent. That's just not going to happen anymore in today's NBA.
It's good. The only time it's going to happen is these older players are going to be free agents is when they're just on 1+1s. Like when the older stars start taking the 2+1s, like LeBron started taking when he was 35. It's like, well, I'm just going to take a 2+1 or a 1+1 because that way I can control my contract for when I'm older.
Yeah.
So
unrestricted free agency is effectively dead in the NBA. You aren't going to go star hunting like you used to be able to.
And it's really hard to get to pry restricted free agents out of. What's the last restricted free agent just to leave?
Just to leave?
Yeah, just they were just like, we're good. Big one. I can't think of any.
I think of Lauri Markkanen, and that's the biggest.
Yeah.
That's a big-ish. It's not even really. I mean, now he is, but at the time he wasn't even.
Brunson, but even then, Brunson wasn't what he was when he left.
No. Brunson.
Because they paid him way more than they thought that he was worth.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson in 2018.
Which again, it's like a role player. It's
no,
they just don't need him. I mean,
even Matisse Thybulle can get his offer sheet matched. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's because it's just teams would be like, I'd rather just match this, see what you have, and if I don't like what you have, I'm trading you on December 15th.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else then on Philly. It's gonna be a situation to monitor. One quote that I thought was hilarious, actually. Hold on, I screenshotted it. I really wanted to read this off. Let me
pull it up.
Yeah. It was James Harden is just getting started and plans to make things more uncomfortable for Philly. Somebody said to me yesterday, this is only the beginning. This is just the beginning of what James Harden is going to do
Oh my
to
God.
make life very uncomfortable for the Philadelphia 76ers going forward into training camp. And that's per Ramona Shelber.
Okay, so that's a legitimate source.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's going to bring out the fat suit out of the closet like Spider-Man. That's what he's going to do.
I think it's gonna be one of the funniest things to watch as an outside fan.
Yeah.
And one more thing about Philly as an organization, this happens way too often as an organization for you to just continue just operating the way you are with your star players. Like this is not a normal thing.
No.
Like any good contender has had some level of stability between their top 2 to 3 guys. Like the Bucks have had the same guys and they keep resigning them, and people are like, why do you just keep running it back? It's like, because they have stability. They know how to play together. They win games. They have the ability to, when the chips fall correctly for them, like they did, you win a championship. But yeah, outside of that, it's not much else to talk about Philly. It's going to be hilarious to watch as an outside fan, especially an Eastern Conference team fan as such as myself. It's hilarious. What one other thing that I want to talk about that just I popped into my head today, the Kristaps Porzingis news.
I saw that. Yeah.
In regards to FIBA, he's been officially diagnosed per himself. Like he confirmed this in a press interview. He's been diagnosed with plantar fasciitis, which a lot of people don't know what that is. Essentially, it's when the bottom muscles and tendons in your foot get very overexerted and stretched, and it can cause them to like internal bruising on the bottom of your foot. It's very painful to walk. I've actually had this when I was in high school. I was actually had to literally walk on, like use crutches as support for walking around. Yeah, it's very painful. Like I had it really bad.
Damn.
It took me about like a month to heal. But yeah, so it's very painful. It's very hard to walk. You cannot play sports while you're doing it, especially professionally. Like it's not going to happen. And if it doesn't heal correctly, the tendons and muscles in your foot can actually rupture. So it can be pretty bad. And I think this goes back to a lot of things that I've talked about from the very first time we talked about the Celtics.
We've talked about, the very first episode of this podcast, we talked about the Celtics and we said the injury concerns are going to be real and they're already showing themselves right now.
Yeah. And it's if that's a problem for extended amount of the season, I mean, it should take a month or 2 to really heal. He's not going to play any FIBA games anymore. He's going to do his rehab, obviously.
Yep.
But if that's not fully healed by the start of the season, and he has to miss games because of, foot soreness or, muscle pain in his legs from, the uncomfortableness of playing throughout that with that injury and the rehab that goes with it. It's not like it could get really bad.
It could get really bad. Yeah. I mean, it definitely could be. And I mean, I saw a report that said he's expected to be ready by the start of training camp, but you can never take those.
They always say that.
They always say that. They're
the same thing as
It's why wouldn't they say that?
The report of every season, some star that had a bad year or was out of shape or had injuries. Oh, he's coming back at the best he's ever been. He's the healthiest he's ever been. It's the same. It's the same type of stuff. Every injury is always you're expected to be back by training camp. That's just not how it works, especially for a muscle or tendon injury. You just don't know how long it's going to take to heal. Yeah. I mean, Brandon Ingram had like a toe injury in the muscles in his like toe.
He missed a ton of games.
He missed like 2.5 months almost. Mm-hmm. Like it's you never know how stuff like this can go, especially for an injury prone guy. who's had lower body issues before.
And it would be one thing if this was a player that, who's had no history of this, but Porzingis has had actually a lot of history of lower body issues, and just being a 7'3" guy, like those injuries, they matter a lot to those players who are that big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And if you're looking at it from a Celtics perspective, you're shutting him down, obviously, which they did.
Yep.
And that front court can get really nasty really fast this season.
Mm-hmm.
If Porzingis misses time in the actual regular season because of this injury maintenance, that's going to be bad. Robert Williams, I love Robert Williams. I think he's a great player. He's awesome energy. But he hasn't had a healthy season once.
Yeah, we saw last year how I think that seriously hindered Robert Williams and the season, because I think Robert Williams in 2022, in my opinion, was the most impactful defender on that team, not Marcus Smart.
Oh, yeah.
But in 2023, I think Robert Williams took a bit of a step back defensively, and I think a big reason of that is, you could say a bit of like a coaching change or whatever, but that injury clearly lingered for a long time. He missed a lot of time. Even when he came back, I don't think Robert Williams was fully himself much at all last season.
No. And Joe Mazzulla just doesn't like him for some reason. Like, he just takes him out of the rotation when he's healthy, randomly. It's really weird. So I don't know what goes on with that whole thing.
Yeah, but I just think the way I also think a lot of that is because they couldn't decide whether they wanted to stick with the 2 big lineup or the 1 big lineup. And Mazzulla was just a little bit confused.
And then their third big on the roster right now is Al Horford, who's 39 years old.
39 years old, also has some injury history. And even if you don't have injury history, if you're like 35 plus, you're going to miss at least 15, 20 games in that season. This is kind of usually how it goes.
Yeah. And he showed signs at the end of the year that he can't, at the end of the day, or he's 37. Well, he's younger than I thought he was. I mean, in the playoffs, he looked bad. He looked bad in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The shooting disappeared when the pace wasn't as fast and he wasn't getting as many open. I mean, he was getting still a lot of open looks. He just wasn't hitting them. His defensively, he looked okay, good on Embiid, but Embiid was also hurt, dealing with injuries.
Yeah.
And it's and then he just looked slow. He looked like he couldn't really compete out there. And it's just I just don't. The only other center is Luke Cornett is the fourth center.
Did they sell Sam Hauser? Is he still on the team?
Yeah, but he's more of a wing.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's 6'8".
Okay.
So he's a small forward, power forward guy. But
and they've also got Malcolm Brogdon, who is also going to be hurt.
Seems like he already is. Seems like his forearm injury from the playoffs is his muscles are just tore up.
Really?
I mean, I don't know what else would be that bad that the Clippers wouldn't be willing to work with your injury history.
Yeah, that was rough. And they lost Grant Williams. You think about it, that Boston Celtics rotation can get very thin very, very fast.
Yeah, and we've seen them in years when the rotation got really thin. Wasn't there a year when they were in the play-in?
Yes, that was 2021. They played the Pacers in the play-in. They blew them out, and they lost in 5 to the Brooklyn Nets in the first round.
Yeah, and that was the year that the rotation got thin, and and a lot of their guys were not healthy for the whole year. And I think obviously the steps that Tatum and Brown and have taken as players, they will not. I don't think they would be that level because
no,
but the injuries pile up throughout the year, and Joe Mazzulla is a guy plays his guys a lot of minutes in a lot of games. They don't take rest games. They don't take he keeps the starters in until literally the end of the fourth quarter.
I mean, the Celtics, they pretty much played like an 8-man rotation nearly all of last year. It felt like to me anyway. Grant Williams was getting DNPs pretty consistently near the end there
for literally no reason either.
Yeah, I've never understood that.
You're too good of a team to be I think Joe Mazzulla was a little bit too occupied with the idea of trying to prove himself as a coach and winning games. You're going to win games regardless. The 2021 Bucks, That was the first year that they really started like like actually managing the amount of games that they were playing, not just minutes. Because the Bucks have always managed the players, their players minutes. Like if we're blowing a team out in the third quarter, you're not playing unless we need to. So like they've always done that. But in 2021, they started resting them more games, and we're gonna take and they didn't win as many games. They weren't like the 1 seed like they had been the 2 previous years. But the team was a lot healthier in the playoffs, and I think you really you don't want to see that start to pile up, the wear and tear on the body. You just really don't want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously you don't you never wish that anyone stays injured, but I mean it's especially with Chris. I mean that's the reason Kristaps wanted his extension right away for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
He knows he's injury prone. He knows that it's possible that his injury history catches up to him eventually, and
that's really why players want extensions fast, is because if they get injured, that extension is off the table.
Yep. I mean, knock on wood. The same thing with Tyrese Maxey. He gets hurt this year. You lose out on $150 million.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Well, I think that's all the stuff that's really came up. Obviously, still slow for the news wise. But we'll get right into the main beef. Meat and potatoes of the episode. We're gonna be just going through some hot takes, some ideas, things that we may not be the most normal if we're just making normal prediction where we're gonna predict, but some nasty hot take agendas that we're gonna be pushing. So I'll let Ryan
we're getting pretty hot with this, scorching hot.
Apparently Ryan has a nasty one. So
I have one that's actually pretty nasty, but I'll save that one for the last.
Yeah,
the first one is a hot take depending on who you ask.
Okay.
The first one is the 2023 Brooklyn Nets would have won the championship if KD and Kyrie had stayed in the team.
You said 2023?
Yep, this season that just passed. I think that team wins the championship.
I agree.
You agree?
I agree. And I know we have a Nets fan that we're friends with that's watching this episode. So I hope you're shedding a tear out there.
Yeah.
But yes, that team was on a huge win streak throughout the season.
That team was good. That team was so
top
good.
10 defense, top 10 offense. And Kyrie was healthy. KD was healthy. Claxton was coming into his own as a depoy level player.
Claxton was so good. He was good the whole season, but like KD and Kyrie leaving basically destroyed Claxton's all defensive team case because people stopped paying attention. But like he was like top 3 in defensive player of the year when that team was fully healthy, superstars and all. Like
yes.
Claxton was so good.
Yes.
That team was so good all around. And yeah, it bums me out that things ended up the way they did because I think that team, I don't know about comfortably, but I think that team wins the championship with relative ease because especially before that, so the 20 games leading up to Kevin Durant getting hurt against the Heat, the Nets went 18-2.
Yep. I think we beat them one of those games.
I don't know. I don't remember who else they lost to, but they didn't lose to many teams.
We beat the hell out of the Nets every time we played them. I think I saw a stat. It was like Giannis's record against the team. He has a crazy. His like win percentage against the Nets is like 89% or something. Yeah, I mean that team was good on defense, good on offense. They had the star power. They had the role players around them, and Ben Simmons was looking like garbage. And they were still that good.
Didn't matter. Oh, just want to add, they lost to Chicago in one of those games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course they did.
I don't know how they did that. But yeah, that team was so good. And yeah, I think that team runs away with the championship. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, especially if Milwaukee is still was dealing with the injuries that they were dealing with throughout the season with Chris, and then you obviously never know how the seeding would have ended up, especially if they were healthy still. But if Giannis still was dealing with a back injury, which I really don't think would have happened against anyone else. But obviously,
Yeah.
because in-game injuries can usually be attributed to what's happening on the court around them. So even if it's just a random normal play, like just how players play on the court. But yeah. I can't disagree too much. I think it would have been close between those three. If everyone was healthy, I think it would have been a close. I think it would be closer than you'd think
Yeah.
between Boston, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn. But I think they probably would have been up there. I
I
think it was
think
good.
Brooklyn takes that.
I think so too. I can't disagree too much.
Yeah, and the reason I say it's a bit of a hot take is because I think I said it on Twitter like maybe a few weeks ago at this point,
Yeah.
and people were not messing with that. People
Yeah.
were calling me crazy. People were like, Boston beats them. I'm just like, no, they don't. Like that Brooklyn team was so good. I think the biggest questions about that Brooklyn team is or were I think the depth wasn't amazing. I mean, TJ Warren, Yuta Watanabe, I think they did a fine job for what they were, but
Yeah.
nothing great. Patty Mills kind of fell off the season, and then
Yeah.
Edmund Sumner was like
But
fine.
even then, with Patty Mills falling off, he's still like a vet point guard who can like not be horrible.
Yeah.
Like
Also,
George Hill,
O'Neal.
Jeff Teague type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like he could still play. Like, he wasn't scoring at the level he was in previous years, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I'll get into my first one. This one's for you, Ryan. I got the Wolves as a top 3 seed in the West next
Yeah.
year.
Let's go. Book it.
I tried to push the agenda last season. My scorching hot take was that they would be the 1 seed next year.
They weren't healthy last year.
They were not.
They weren't healthy.
I have it listed. Just give me 1 second. But they had so many struggles scoring wise throughout the season. Ups and downs with D'Angelo Russell's situation. The trades that, KAT not being healthy, Rudy Gobert adjustment of not having a real point guard until later in the season. Most of those holes should be filled. Jaden McDaniels took a step this last season, which I think he'll continue to make a step this year.
Oh yeah.
And I think that so they won 42 games last year. 3 seed was 48 games. So I could say, and with the steps that all of those players, especially, and the biggest one, Anthony Edwards, the step that he can take is, if he takes another step, it's top 15-ish like level stuff. And it's like, you have a top 15 player, you have a good co-star, you have another season of gelling with the understanding how to play with Rudy Gobert, and Jaden McDaniels taking a step, and another season with Mike Conley. And it's like, Nikhil Alexander Walker getting another year.
Yeah.
It's like, if these guys can continue to take steps, I mean, I can see them being as good as the 48 wins. That's really not that crazy.
Yeah, those Timberwolves. I completely agree with you on that take too. I think everyone should just book them as a top 4 seed at least, because you think about it, they were so close. I mean, 6 games isn't super close, but like, you think about it, if KAT doesn't miss 53 games, you don't think they add at least 6 wins to their team?
And at the very least, it's like they're going to add like 3 to 4, plus the margin of improvement in the actual development is like, that's going to lead to more wins. And also on top of that, like, some of these top teams, like in the West, like Memphis, for example, their best player is going to be out 25 games. Like, they're going to take a step back regardless. Like, I still think they'll be a playoff team. Which I have another thing that actually has to do with Memphis that I'll get to, but
all right,
they're going to be a good team still, but they're going to take a step back. They don't have Tyus Jones anymore to run that backup point guard. It's going to be Marcus Smart.
People are not talking about that. I'm saying Tyus Jones is a big loss.
Yeah, but like, they're still going to be good, but they're not going to be 51 wins good probably next year because of that 25 games they're missing.
No.
Sacramento, I think Sacramento will be really good again. But are good again. But they won so many fourth quarter close games. the regression of winning that many fourth quarter games is just it's standard operating procedure in sports. Teams that win that many close fourth quarter games or one score, like in football, teams that win a lot of one score games, it doesn't. You can't. Those trends don't continue year to year.
Yeah.
There's always going to be veteran. Like teams are always going to be. There's always going to be teams that are better than other teams in the fourth quarter. Especially when you have a really clutch player like De'Aaron Fox. But I can definitely see them losing some more of those games.
Yeah. Also, you got to mention the Kings. They were so healthy last season.
Yeah.
Like their health compared to every other team in the league was pretty remarkable. They had almost none of their major rotation players miss time at all.
Yeah.
They pretty much played the entire season, all of them.
Yeah, and also the West is not as locked down as people think. I mean, obviously, I'm taking Denver as the 1 seed again, but Denver, they have some roster step backs, and that's a possible regression as well. I think they'll be around the same win total, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
But at 53 wins, I would probably say around that win total again or a few more. West is tough, but I mean, a team like the Pelicans was at the top of the conference for 3.5 months until they lost like 19 in a row.
Yeah.
So like, it's really that crazy to think. And I'm really high on all the Timberwolves guys. I think they're all like, they have a lot of guys who can be really good. And even if they don't hit their full potential, like even if Jaden McDaniels doesn't hit his full potential, like of what we think he could be as a creator, he's still going to be like a top 5 3-and-D guy in the entire NBA. So
yeah, he's going to be so good regardless. And and even I think the Suns and the Lakers, like there are still questions about them the same way we have questions about the Wolves, right? Like the Lakers, they will probably have some offense issues, and the Suns will probably have some defense
and
issues and injuries. I mean, like obviously I'm a Timberwolves diehard fan, so I'm gonna be optimistic regardless. But like I really do think that there is such a clear window for them to be a really, really good team in the West next year. Obviously, the playoffs is a different story. We'll have to get there. But, with Rudy coming into the season healthy, with KAT, I'm assuming being healthy for most of the season and not being sick during training camp. What weird thing about training camp last year for the Wolves, Rudy comes in still hurt from Eurobasket, and KAT gets the flu and loses 25 pounds and doesn't he can't come to training camp at all.
Yeah.
So basically that they played one preseason game of KAT and Rudy playing together, and then the season started.
And then KAT got hurt like a month in.
KAT got hurt. D'Angelo Russell got traded for Mike Conley, and Mike Conley was such a clear upgrade for that team. You've got
Conley's Mike Conley's so good. He's so good.
Yeah.
You could keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I could keep going actually all day, to be honest. But I do want to segue into my hot take because I have a Timberwolves hot take too, and I think that Karl Anthony Towns is about to have a career season. It's time we put some respect on KAT's name. I'm just going to say that the KAT disrespect has gotten out of hands. You know how good he is when he's fully healthy? All NBA.
Yeah.
24 points per game, 10 rebounds, like 6 attempts from 3, a 41%, all top of the key, slasher, get into the rim, passing. KAT is so good when he's healthy, and people don't care. People are trying to compare him to Miles Turner. People are comparing him to, like, respectfully, people who are like definitely below his class. Like we just saw 2022, he leads the Timberwolves to the playoffs. KAT is in the same tier as guys like Bam.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it used to be so normal for KAT to be at 3 and Bam to be at 4. That's just how it was for a long time.
Yeah.
KAT gets hurt last season, and even when he comes back, let's be honest, he missed 53 games. But for a 7-footer who's coming back from a grade 3 calf strain, like, it takes a lot longer than what it took for him to get healthy from that. We saw even against Denver, which everybody's going crazy about because KAT was bad. Yeah, KAT was bad against Denver. I mean, really the first 2 games he was bad. The rest of the games
he had he had moments though. He had moments.
He had a lot of strong moments in that series, defending Jokic, going against Jokic, punishing Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green on the switches. You have to think that if his lower body strength is all in check, the same way it was in 2022, I think KAT has a much better series, and the Wolves take more than one game against the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I agree. And back to that, KAT's playing the 4 this year. It's going to be a weird adjustment. He still has to adjust to that because he didn't get that much time there last year. But here's the thing. When it gets playoff time, what teams are they going through? Denver. They're going to have to go through Denver if they want to make a run. Denver is Jokic and Aaron Gordon, 2 bigger players who like to punish you physically. They have 2 big guys that can go against them. Yeah. Memphis is going to be another team they're going to have to run against, especially throughout the future as a young team.
We can take Memphis. We can.
Yeah, but that's another 2 big team. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Steven Adams. That fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Like KAT and Jaren Jackson are both outside in guys, even though KAT can play inside out.
Yeah.
But they're both outside in guys because of their role now, because Rudy's going to be down there. And Steven Adams and Rudy Gobert are both paint guys. They're rebounders, they're screeners, they're defensive guys. And it's like, who else are they going to have to play? Golden State? They can punish Golden State for their size.
Golden State is food to this Timberwolves team.
LA, the Lakers, another team that has size, another size team. They want to play big. They want to beat you up defensively.
Yeah.
They have the size to match them offensively.
And this Timberwolves team is beat to bully the small teams and to match up well against the big teams.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the series against Denver only went 5 games, but everyone who saw the series knows, and even Denver players like Bruce Brown themselves are admitting, the Timberwolves gave them the hardest matchup of any team they played. And it's because when the Timberwolves are locked in and when they use their size to their advantage, they make things difficult. Like, obviously, Jokic is going to be Jokic. There is no answer for Jokic.
Yeah.
There just isn't. But
no, there never will be.
Towns and Gobert, they made Jokic work for his buckets. Yep. They really did. Nothing was free in that series. And I also think that what will make Karl-Anthony Towns thrive this season is the immersion of Anthony Edwards, right? KAT is finally the clear-cut number 2 option. There's no questions about it anymore. Yeah. KAT is the clear-cut number 2 option, and if he can embrace that role, which, that's a bit of a question mark because we'll have to see it, but if KAT can embrace that role as the full-on number 2 option,
yeah,
you add that with the gravity that Anthony Edwards draws, just naturally being a great shooter, mid-range shooter, improved playmaker. He can get to the rim like no other.
Yeah, he's got to improve. He's got to improve playmaking wise, though.
He does. He definitely does. And I think we could for sure see that because he gets better every single year.
Yeah.
And then, like, KAT defensively too. Like, it's a bit of a weird fit having him guard 4s because the power forwards of today's age are not the power forwards of like 10 years ago where it's another big. It's going to be hard for KAT to guard 4s, but you've also got Rudy Gobert anchoring the defense with Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards flying around. I think you can pretty easily hide KAT against some of those guys.
Mike Conley's not a good, I wouldn't say he's a high-end defender, but he's a high IQ player. He knows how to play defense.
Yeah, Mike Conley, his legs don't work like they used to. He's not going to be the defender that he was in 2011. No way.
Could you imagine? Just a random thought process. I would think, do you know what would be a nasty, nasty combination? If you had Drew Holiday on that team, that would be a nasty, nasty team. I just ran it like a Drew Holiday player would be so.
Drew Holiday would, yeah. He would be like the dream point guard for that team. But yeah, I think KAT is in for an amazing season. I might even say that KAT could have an All-NBA season again. That's how I think that's how good he's going to be.
Especially he's going to be listed as a forward. He's going to be eligible. It's actually positionless this year.
It's positionless. Yeah.
If a guy, no disrespect, because I think Julius Randle, well, actually, maybe a little bit, but Julius Randle made All-NBA 3rd team this year. Karl-Anthony Towns is better than Julius Randle when he's healthy.
Yeah. It's without a question.
And this Timberwolves team also, which goes back to my top 3 seed take, this is a deeper team than a lot of teams in the West.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Rudy Gobert, KAT, Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like I said, and Naz Reid, Kyle Anderson. Jada McDaniels, Shake Milton. Like they don't have to play Jordan McLaughlin anymore.
That can be a plus.
Yes. Troy Brown Jr. too. Like that can be
Troy
a guy
Brown
that can
Jr.
play minutes.
He can
Like
come
this is a
in.
9 or 10 deep team that can play minutes.
And even like the guys at the bottom of the bench, I think, have a real shot at being impactful. Josh Minot, who I am just obsessed with. I wrote a whole column about him. I might link it in the description because he is the real deal. I think he could be super, super good, and I think he could start impacting the team right away. Also, the Wolves got one of the steals in the draft in Leonard Miller.
Yeah.
Leonard Miller, I can for sure see him coming into games, just making things weird, giving the team a new look that defenses can't adjust to, and just like, providing solid minutes for them maybe.
Or if there's rest games, or there's games where there's injuries or illness, which the Wolves have dealt with a lot of weird stuff like that. Like everyone on the team gets sick.
Yeah.
So it's like
that happened in the biggest stretch of the season where they needed to win. The entire team gets like the flu.
Yeah. And I mean, just teams that are this deep win games in the regular season. It's just how it is. Really quick, I'm just looking at you have a Greg Monroe as a cap hold on your team. Why? What the?
We signed him at the end of the 2022 season because COVID hit our team like a truck. We needed a big, and we actually kept him on the team through the playoffs. Saw the floor in the playoffs for like 2 seconds, and immediately got pulled off. But we're still paying him.
Bucks legend Greg Monroe. Legend,
shout out to Moose. That's his nickname, Moose.
Yeah, him and John Henson are Bucks legends forever. Yeah. They let Giannis develop his ball handling skills, but also made him not be able to develop a post game.
Let me just say, I love when like random obscure players get a mention in the podcast. Like Greg Monroe. Shout out to Greg Monroe.
Yeah. Really quick, because this is funny. Me and Ryan, prior to this, I got a Michael Redd bobblehead today from the thrift shop. And me and Ryan were talking about how when your team's bad, they give out the funniest like player merch,
they do,
like memorabilia stuff. And like how I was talking about, like there's definitely like a memorabilia day back in the day for like the Bucks, where it'd be like a Greg Monroe like t-shirt, or like a bobblehead, or like Zaza Pachulia like memorabilia. So
yeah, I'm convinced that a Jeff Teague Timberwolves bobblehead exists in someone's basement right now. Like it's got to somewhere.
Yeah, and some poor kid got that and was so excited.
Poor guy.
All right. Well, let me get into my next one then. I'm gonna keep my biggest one for the end.
Okay.
I got this one is. We kind of talked about this before on the podcast. We don't really have to give it that much time.
Okay.
I'm picking Ben Simmons all defense and bounce back season, man.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing he has to do for that team is play defense and facilitate, and he can do that. He doesn't need to be a scorer. He needs to facilitate and play defense, and that's all they're going to need him to do and if he can do that at anywhere close to a level, and he can change the type of defense he plays. He is the big enough body where he can be a wing defender instead of a guard defender. Like instead of being the one, and I just want him to be good again. I want him to be good so bad. I haven't always agreed with how Ben Simmons has handled his business in regards to his trade request and going on podcasts and saying he's going to be back and better than ever, and scary hours with him and Katie and Kyrie. So I think it was stupid, but I think he's been quieter this year. Yep. He obviously, every NBA player posts workouts and whatever. Their trainers post videos of them. That's just common stuff. But like, it's like he's been quieter this year. He seems like he's doing rehab, and it seems like he's getting his back fully healthy before he tries to do anything. And I feels like the Nets organization wants him to get healthy before they play him. I think they would rather develop the guys that are there now, give them the bigger roles, like Cam Johnson, play a bigger role. Let's see what you can do. Mikal, go do whatever you want, because we're gonna see what you can do. Cam Thomas, do whatever you want to do. Also, Cam Thomas, man, you make me so sad when you go on podcasts and say I wish I could play more. You make me so sad about that. It's so sad when you hear NBA play. I always think about that really, really quick. NBA players, like there's definitely NBA players that are just like sitting on the bench, like how we were being high school on like a high school team. If you don't play, it's like, man, I really want to just get in the game just once in a while. Like,
yeah, especially when you like Cam Thomas, when he starts, can like give you 40. Like Cam Thomas is hilarious because he started like 3 games,
Yeah.
scored 40 in each of them, and then went right back to the bench.
Yeah. That's like the most inefficient 40 of all time, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah.
But anyways, I just want Ben Simmons to be good again. I think he has the ability to be good again. And also, I'm seeing a lot of talk on like Twitter and YouTube videos. I was talking to guys, but Ben Simmons' career, do not get fooled by the last year and a half or 2 years. He has had a good career up to this point.
He has
2-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Defense, steals champ. Like runner up, he should have won that DPOY, by the way. I think Gobert won that one. That
in 2021. Yeah, Gobert won. Yep.
Yeah, Ben Simmons should have won that. All right. Well, we had a quick technical break for a second there, so that's why there's probably a cut in the video, as you guys can see. But yeah, I think we've kind of been unanimously like wanting Ben Simmons to be good. And obviously any guy that's dealt with the injuries that he's dealt with throughout his career and the way that it's limited him, you always hope that they can get back to what they were, especially because Ben Simmons is such a fun player when he's healthy. Like
people forget that, and he's a super fun player. And also, like, back injuries, they take a long time to heal from. Back injuries are pretty serious, and obviously these reports come out every summer about players, but if it is true that Ben Simmons is feeling 100%, like he's fully healthy and he's ready to go out there again, yeah, I think we could see a pretty big year from Ben Simmons.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ryan, what do you got for us next up?
All right. I've got a bit of a crazy one, but I think that Victor Wembanyama can make an all-defensive team his rookie season.
I can see the vision. I see the vision. He's going to be one of the best help side defenders in the NBA right away.
Yeah, he's going to come in. He's going to come in right away, and yeah, one of the best. Like we saw in France, his highlights as like a weak side rim protector are insane, and I really do think a lot of that could translate to the NBA. I mean, with him being as tall as he is and the wingspan he has, and his feel for the game, his sensibilities on the defensive side of the ball, and his lateral movements, the way he can jump in the air and just like spike any ball he wants, it feels like, into the crowd. Again, it'll be tougher in the NBA, but I think there's a legit avenue for Victor Wembanyama to become like an all defensive team player, be like what Evan Mobley was his rookie season, but juiced, like way better than that even.
Yeah, I agree. I think Victor, the part of Victor Wembanyama's game that's going to take time for development is going to be the offensive side.
Sure.
Because he's not going to be able to do the BS that he was doing in France. I'm sorry. Like it's just, you're not dribbling up and down the court and just going through your legs and just doing whatever. Like that's just not going to happen in the NBA. Okay. Because every team has a guy that can do that too.
Yep.
And if everybody was just doing that, then the whole NBA everyone would be a max player, which it's just not how it works. But the part of his game that's not going to need development is the defense. He's a high IQ player. He understands where to be with himself and with the basketball. And then on top of that, like, he understands altering shots at the rim is one of the most valuable skills you can possibly have. It's why Brook Lopez was so good last year. Obviously the shot blocking, but he contested significantly more shots than anyone else in the NBA and is very good at making them miss because they knew he was going to block it otherwise. So,
yep. And that's really, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, in my opinion, the two most important skills in the NBA is 1, 3-point shooting, and 2, paint defense. I think paint defense, rim protection are just such important skills in the NBA. And Victor Wembanyama, I think, is going to be one of the best at that right away. I mean, especially weak side rim protection, right? Yeah. Being a help defender, probably playing the 4 when that happens. What I am curious about,
Zach Collins on the roster still, right?
Yeah, they do. What I am curious about with the Spurs is that how Wembanyama is going to look when he's the 5, playing with Sohan at the 4, because when you're playing the 5, you're going to have to take on a lot more of the defensive responsibility guarding the other team's big, and I I think there are going to be some matchups, especially early on when Wembanyama is playing the 5, and he has to match up against a center who's big, who's strong, who's physical, and I think he's going to get pushed around a little bit.
Yeah,
that's just going to be what happens. But the lineups when Wembanyama is playing the 4, I think his defensive potential on that side is going to immediately be obvious from day one.
There's going to be some crazy lineups. He's going to play minutes at the 3 next year.
I think he for sure will. Yeah,
like it's going to be a lineup of like Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, like Wemby at the 3, Sohan at the 4, and Zach Collins at the 5.
I hope we see that.
That would be such a fun lineup to watch.
Super cool. I mean, I think we've seen that in the most recent years. Greg Popovich has been willing to kind of get weird, just try things. I mean, they've had nothing to play for the last few years, so why not just try things?
And they're not going to be the worst team in the NBA.
They will. Yeah, like we saw Point Sohan last year.
Yeah,
like that's. I think Wemby is going to play probably 3 or 4 positions.
They have a lot of good pieces. I'm high on Devin Vassell. Wemby's obviously if you're not high on him, you're just hating or just trying to be different. Sohan was very good last year as a defensive player.
I love Sohan.
And as a high IQ guy, and he has a lot of room to develop. But overall, the roster is lacking talent, and they're the only team of the bottom teams that are not gaining something outside of who they drafted. Rockets obviously signed all those guys. Detroit brought in vets to run play off the bench. Joe Harris, all their guys.
And with the Pistons too, I think they already have Cade. Year 3 Cade is going to be at least a couple steps above anybody who the Spurs are going to have this season. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well then I'll get into another one of mine. I have, like I said, I got Jaren Jackson Jr. All NBA, All Defensive combo awards this season. I'm buying all the Jaren Jackson Jr. stock offensively with Ja not there. I think he's gonna take a step offensively. That's because otherwise there's nothing there. I think he can take less of a defensive responsibility next year because one of the reasons he won Defensive Player of the Year, obviously he's great. He's probably the best overall shot blocker in the NBA because of athleticism, length, ability to do it on help side and straight up that way. And is a funnel defense, especially with the steps back that Rudy Gobert has taken this last year. But I mean, with a guy like Marcus Smart coming in, being able to take some of that switch responsibility is going to let him have more energy for the offensive end. And Steven Adams coming back, and a lot, like I was saying, but a lot of the reason he won the DPOY last year was when Steven Adams went down, he had to move to the 5, and he was doing everything. He was doing everything on defense as the only real big man on the roster because Brandon Clark tore his Achilles.
Yep.
And he was the only real big man on the roster that was in the rotation. But before that, and I mean, it's they're getting down to their 3rd or 4th big, and it's Xavier Tillman is now playing real.
Xavier Tillman, David Roddy.
Yeah.
At the 5, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's gross. It's next year he's not going to have to do that. I think there's a reason that Memphis was careful with Steven Adams. Brandon Clark probably won't play this for most of the year.
I don't think he's going to play at all.
Yeah, he probably won't play at all because the Achilles can take up to – it's usually about a 10-month recovery for the actual surgery. But in basketball, you put a lot of stress on the Achilles, and they're going to be a playoff team. So it's not like he can come back at the end of the year and just kind of go out there and mess around. So he probably won't play this year.
Yeah.
But Xavier Tillman looked good towards the end of the year, especially in the playoffs. He had that crazy good game in the playoffs. But
against LA? right?
Yeah, he was like, remember there
Oh,
was a game where he was just giving Anthony Davis buckets.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was hilarious. That was a
Yep.
funny game. Um, but like if Xavier Tillman can be serviceable, David Roddy is going to play more.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You obviously have that type of development, and someone's gonna need to take a step forward. Desmond Bain as well. We've talked about in our shooting guards episode. He's gonna have to take a step offensively in the creation role, but Jaren Jackson Jr. All NBA is mostly offense, but if you're a two-way player and you're doing both at a good level and one at an extremely high level,
Yeah.
like he will be, all NBA voters reward that. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm definitely buying the stock on that.
Yeah. I don't think I'm as on board as you are, maybe with Jaren's leap, especially offensively.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know why, but I've always had my reserves with uh, Jaren Jackson Jr. on the offensive side of the ball. Um, I, I, I think kind of in people's head a lot of the times they kind of envision him as a better scorer than he actually might be in real life.
Mm-hmm.
18 points per game is pretty solid. Like a lot of players are
Yeah.
never going to reach that, but um, for a for like a number two star like that to only average less than 20, um, like last year, I can't really see him averaging maybe what he needs to keep the Grizzlies like to be a really good team in those
Yeah.
games without Ja. And I think obviously the offensive responsibility that Ja leaves in his absence has to go somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of what like we were talking about with Desmond Bain in the shooting guards episode, how
Yeah.
much better can he really get right now to fill much of that gap?
I think where you really look for it is throughout the season. And I think it's similar to what you were talking about with Jaden McDaniels. But throughout the season, he was more willing to create, especially in post touches. He wasn't so scared to drive off of his catch and shoot opportunities. And I think he's going my thought process in this is he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah,
Um, Someone has to take those shots. Someone needs to create, especially rim pressure,
for sure.
because there needs to be some sort of scoring. And they're playing now. He's going to be playing alongside um, Marcus Smart,
Yep.
who is going to play. He's going to have a lot of cleanup defensive plays. That's what he does. He's a cleanup defensive player. He's tough. But on the offensive end, he can be a shooter. He can score at somewhat of a level. He's willing to self create, sometimes to a negative aspect,
Yeah.
but he can do it, and it's not horrible. But at the same time, he can also distribute the ball, and I think he'll be
He can.
not to a high level, not to like a play like point
Yeah,
level, but he can, and he's willing to do it.
that's what I was about to
And
say. Like he can kind of set the table for other players on that
yeah,
end of the ball, but like I mean, John Morant is one of the best playmakers in the NBA, and you
yeah,
take that away from this team,
hmm
like 25 games obviously isn't 82, but 25 games you're looking at like a third of the season,
and it's
right?
all in
So
a row.
it's all in a row.
Yeah,
So 25 games is significant, right?
yeah,
So and especially with how tightly packed these standings have been in the last few years, like
yeah,
those games really matter. So without John, like yeah, John Morant leaves a scoring gap, but he also leaves a pretty big playmaking gap too
yeah,
that the rest of the Grizzlies players aren't going to be able to kind of feed off of on
yeah.
offense the same way
I
they used to be. So
I can agree. I really am hopeful for the way that his game developed, and I think he can also take a playmaking step. I think he understands court movement because of how good of
yeah,
a defender he is, and he understands an inside out game. And if they're looking, and I think the coaching staff as a whole, their coach's name is completely
Taylor Jenkins,
Taylor Jenkins. Yes. Um, if Taylor Jenkins is good, he has to have someone do it,
he
and they're
does.
going to have to experiment. That's what it comes down to. They're going to have to play in a way that they've never had to play before. They don't have a true distributor on the team anymore. Tyus Jones is not there. John Morant's not going to play the first 25 games. they're going to have to experiment. They're going to have to get creative, and
Yeah, and
Jaren's
it's
going to
like,
step. And if he does, I have no problem seeing that will occur.
yeah, I think it can. But yeah, if it does, like it's really gonna come on the hinges of him embracing that inside out game, like
Yeah.
truly, because Jaren Jackson, kind of in his early years in the NBA, was labeled as a stretch four pretty early on. Which, to give him some credit, he can space the floor a little bit. Like you can't really. You aren't going to feel that very good about leaving him completely open in
Yeah,
the
you can't
corner.
leave him open, but
You can't leave him open, but the aesthetics of his jump shot are really bad.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not
He's got that Halliburton jump shot.
He does have the Halliburton jump shot, except he his body like jumps forward and his back is like all the way. I don't know. It's an ugly jump shot. It goes in sometimes, but if that volume on that 3-pointer were to go up, I'm pretty confident the percentages would go down.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think if Jaren were to really embrace that inside out game, more post up opportunities, more cuts, he can get there for sure.
Which is going to be available. It's going to be available because Ja's not going to be playing at the rim. He's not going to be the rim presence that there was last year.
Yeah, and I hate to keep on hating on Jaren, I guess, if you will call it that, but also if those foul trouble issues don't show up, I think there could be some issues there, because if Jaren isn't available for the games because he gets into foul trouble, I think the Grizzlies' offense will completely die out.
Yeah. Well, and last year he was better with it. He took a step at getting better with it last year, and I think he'll take another step this year. As his defense, as his jump happiness kind of goes down. And also he's coming into the season fully healthy this year. He missed a lot of games at the beginning of the season.
That. You're right.
Yeah.
I forget that.
And he's had a full healthy offseason, to put on muscle and not rehab. So, there could definitely be a step there. So,
yeah.
All right. Do you have another one or no?
I was gonna maybe mention Ben Simmons, but you already had that in one of yours. So yeah, I don't have any other hot takes written down.
Okay. I have one more.
You got one more? Let's hear it.
All right. So this would be a first in NBA history, but this is the hottest take because I pretty much actually 1% chance of happening, but I have Giannis completing the perfect season. MVP, all NBA first team, all defensive first team, finals MVP, and possible defensive player of the year.
All right.
I think, which we can talk about as well. Giannis had his knee cleanup surgery. For the first time in his career, he has had surgery to clean up and maintain his injury. He is not just rehabbed over the season, and done injury management in the offseason. He had knee cleanup surgery, and he's sitting out FIBA. This is going to be one of the first times he's coming into his offseason with a full offseason rest, rehab, and healthy coming into training camp and the offseason and to the regular season. There's going to be a lot more playmaking opportunities for Giannis this season because of those new scheme changes. He's going to be a lot more ball handling opportunities as a playmaker, new coach, and the defensive scheme is going to change. He's not going to be sitting in the corner on defense all game. He's going to play switch. He's going to take on primary wing players when he needs to in big matchups. And I think you could be looking at a very, very special Giannis season. And also, if his knee is healthier and his wrist is healthier from what happened last year, he had a wrist sprain around All-Star. As people remember, he played the first game. They threw him a lob, and then he checked himself out, and he didn't play after that.
I remember that. Yeah.
The mid-range jump shot could start to come back a little bit. He was very good in 2022. I don't think he'll be that good ever again because I think that's the best his jump shot will probably ever look unless he has a Brook Lopez type jump shot change towards the end of his career. But
yeah,
I think the mid-range efficiency could start to go up. I think the free throw efficiency could go up. I think the defensive metrics are going to in as an isolation defender, as a switch defender, as a rim protector. He's already has the lowest expected field goal percentage at the rim of any rim defender in the NBA. That's contested at least 150 shots. it's like negative 18% expected field goal percentage.
Crazy.
Yeah. And he's a very good isolation defender, obviously, because he has such a good lateral movement and recovery speed, and he's so long. And he's, if used correctly, which I believe he will be, he has the ability to switch 1 through 5 and be the best switch defender in the NBA as well. Like, it's Jaden McDaniels was probably the best switch defender in the NBA, maybe Bam, but it's that on steroids because he's faster and stronger than both of them. Like, so I think, and obviously this is the hottest take I have. This is like this has never been done. This has never happened in history. Like,
and that's obviously it's not like that's not an indictment on Giannis. That's just like, that just never happens, right?
Yeah,
but
it doesn't happen. And he's also won 2 MVPs in the last 5 years. If the Mavericks, it's pretty much Luka's award, in my opinion.
Really?
If the Mavs are good, it's Luka's award.
I don't think the Mavs are going to be that good.
Well, I'm saying if the Mavs are good, it's Luka's award.
Yeah, okay. If the Mavs are a top, like, 4 seed, a 3 seed especially, if the Mavs are a top 3 seed, like, that Luka MVP is right. But yeah, I don't think I would, like, we aren't betting money on that. But with Giannis, like, he's gonna come into this season with something to prove. He's gonna have he always says he has like a chip on his shoulder, but I really believe that he's gonna have like a real chip on his shoulder coming into the season, like, because he is not happy with the way the season ended last year, losing against the Heat in the first round. Like, come on. I think Giannis is out for blood this season, and we're gonna see that for sure.
And the new coach is not he's not playing 26 minutes a game. I'm sorry. It's just not happening this year. I think the front office, I think the medical staff, I think the coaching staff, I think they understand that limiting guys too much, similar to what the Clippers have done the last 2 years, can hurt them. It can hurt players. And along with that, Chris Middleton is going to have a bounce back season, similar to how Brook Lopez had a bounce back season last year. After his injury season in 2022, which people also forget about 2022 when we lost in the playoffs. Brook Lopez was coming off back surgery and played like a month and a half and then went into the playoffs. Like, that's it. Somehow Ben Simmons needs to get with whatever doctor Brook Lopez was with, but the whole team is going to be better. They won 58 games last year with their second best player. Well, Drew, I think Chris Middleton fully healthy is the second best player on the team.
I agree.
Yeah. With their second best player playing 35 games. And if he plays close to 60 or 70 this year, I can see this team winning over 60 games easily. And I think they could easily be the best regular season team in the NBA. Again, they have continuity. All the real players are coming back. You have a guy like Marjan that you think can possibly take a step for you. Malik Beasley's coming in, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff about Malik Beasley on his story and from the Bucks. Seems like he's in the training center, in the Bucks training center every day almost, or with his trainer every day.
Yeah, Malik Beasley's a great player.
Yeah, and he seems he's beaten. Fun fact: the Bucks have a shooting game that they play in the arena or in their training center. 100 threes, whoever can make the most. Grayson Allen has held the record for ever since he's gotten here. Malik Beasley came and he beat it in a week. So I also hope, I think this team is going to look to make a trade once the season starts. Target a guard that can play 1 or 2. DeLon Wright, Colin Sexton, someone like that. DeLon Wright would be my dream because you literally only have to give up like Grayson Allen. You have to give up like nothing else. With Colin Sexton, you have to give up multiple guys plus a pick probably. So, but so I think somehow buying Giannis stock might be a good idea in some alternate reality.
I'm here for it.
But
I'm here for it.
Yeah, so that's probably, obviously that's like the craziest thing ever. If that happened, that'd be like top. He's like top 10 all time type level stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
That'd be I'm telling you right now, if Giannis Antetokounmpo wins an MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and a Finals MVP in the same year next season, his resume will conclude 3 MVPs, 2 Finals MVPs, 2 DPOYs, 6 All NBA first teams, and 4 All NBA defensive first teams.
That's like, yeah, that's I'd put him above Kevin Durant right then.
Kevin Durant, man, he's coming for Hakeem's spot too.
He's coming for that top 10.
Sorry, Curry, you're gone, man.
Yeah,
that top 10 spot lasted 2 years. Sorry, but anyways, I think that's all I got for today. I think a lot of good talk. We were worried we wouldn't have good talk today with not that much news and no lists for the week, but we got it through it. A lot of good talk.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you'd like to wrap the show up with before we send off?
I would, yes. I just want to say thank you so much for again all the support on the channel and on Spotify. Make sure you're looking out for Spotify because episodes are coming out there.
Get those downloads. We also have video and audio on there.
Yep, on Spotify too.
Yeah,
yes.
We are approved for video on Spotify. So directly, instead, if you want to, you can download the episodes right there. And that way, if you want to watch the video, you can full screen the video. If you want to just listen to the audio, you can just turn your phone off. It's a great alternative to YouTube. You know what? Watch both.
Watch both. Watch both. It's 5 stars on Spotify. Leave a like in the videos. Also, check out our clips. We take clips from the podcasts that we record, just like today's, and we re-upload them as their own videos. So if there are like specific parts of the pod that you want to go back to, we have those as their separate videos. Yeah. We also want to say thank you because we just had our first video reach 1,000 views.
Yes, sir.
The first FIBA video we made like a month ago has 1,000 views on YouTube, which is a big step and honestly a milestone I wasn't expecting for us to reach as fast as we did.
What is it, 6 weeks?
This is our 7th episode, so less than 2 months. We've already got an 1,000 view video. So
yep, and both we've also had multiple videos hit 500 or around 500. So
yeah,
that's also awesome as well. So yeah, we do appreciate everyone. Going to keep working. We'll be going through it. Off season obviously is hard to do stuff. So. But we'll keep going throughout the season once there's more stuff going on, obviously, as well. So I'm also starting a series this week, next week probably. It's a lot of research, so I'm trying to decide what teams I want to go through and what for that. But that will be coming out, and I think it is a 1-of-1 series on YouTube. I've not been able to find anything of the sorts. I've asked people if they know if there's anything of the sorts. I have not found anything. So this will be a first. So we'll hopefully that gets started as well.
Yeah, so that'll be coming out. Matthias is still working on the 1v1 that him and I played. So
yeah,
stay
there's
tuned for that.
A lot more editing to go into that video with actually cutting up the clips and make sure the audio doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, so everything will come out. It's all a process. We're still going strong on content. We're coming out with videos nearly every single day, it feels like, whether it's original content, pod, or pod clips. So always stay tuned for that.
And also check us out on socials. Ryan, not sure if any of you guys know, but Ryan does write articles on one of our good friends' pages that has a forum page for NBA articles, so you guys can check out Ryan's socials if you guys want to ever read stuff. And there's also links to a bunch of other great guys that we know and great community members that write as well.
Yeah. All right. And next week we'll continue on with the position rankings. We're ranking power forwards. So
of course.
Stay tuned for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, peace out, everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed this episode of Soul Hoops, and do all the good stuff that we've mentioned. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out us on all platforms. Follow us on all of our socials down below, and we will see you next week. Peace out.
Peace.